All right, let's get right into it. Every single year, India puts on this amazing show of power and pride to salute its navy. And you know, it's a huge celebration, but behind all the fanfare, there's this absolutely incredible story. We're talking about pure audacity, some seriously brilliant strategy, and a victory that literally changed the course of a war.
So that brings up the big question, right? Why December 4th? What's so special about that date? Well, I can tell you, it's not just some random day they picked out of a hat. It actually marks one of the boldest, most successful naval attacks in modern history. And that's exactly what we're going to unpack today.
So first, let's just take a quick look at how this celebration happens today. Every year, there's a huge event, like this one at Shangamugam Beach in Thiruvananthapuram. It's all about showcasing a force that is modern, powerful, and really committed to self-reliance.
Okay, and what's so cool here is how everything you see on this list connects today's Navy right back to its past. That theme, combat ready, cohesive, self-reliant, that's not just some corporate slogan, it is a direct inheritance from what happened back in 1971. You've got the INS Vikrant, our own homegrown aircraft carrier, named after its legendary predecessor from the war. You see the Marcos Commandos? Yeah, the Navy's elite special forces? Their roots are planted in that very conflict. To really get what this all means, we've got to rewind the clock.
So let's go back. This is the heart of our story, Operation Trident. This was the exact moment the Indian Navy, which a lot of people saw as just a defensive force, really announced itself on the world stage with one heck of an offensive strike. So what exactly was Operation Trident? Well, it was a surprise attack on the absolute nerve center of the Pakistan Navy, Karachi Harbour. And this place wasn't just a military base, it was the hub for the country's entire maritime trade, their logistics, everything. The stakes just could not have been higher. The plan had three really clear and, frankly, devastating goals. First, neutralize the enemy fleet right where they live. Second, choke off their economy and their supply lines. And third, and this is so important, deliver a psychological shock that would completely flip the momentum of the war. This was about so much more than just sinking a few ships. And this quote just says it all, doesn't it? It captures the sheer audacity of the mission. It was a statement. It proved that India could project its power way beyond its own shores and hit the enemy with lethal precision right in their own backyard.
So who pulled this off? It was the 25th Missile Boat Squadron. And they earned their nickname, the Killer Squadron. Get this. They were using these pretty new Soviet-made Osa-class boats, armed with Styx anti-ship missiles, and they just went in and created absolute chaos. And the results? I mean, look at this. They were just devastating. The INS Nirgat sinks the destroyer PNS Khyber, boom. The INS Veer takes out the minesweeper PNS Muhafiz, gone. And then the INS Nipet, wow. It delivers this 1-2 punch, sinking a ship packed with ammo and then hitting the Kamari oil tanks. Those tanks went up in a blaze so huge you could see it from over 100 kilometers away. Just incredible.
But here's the part that's just mind-blowing. The most incredible fact about this whole operation? The number of Indian lives lost. 0. Not one. The entire task force returned to base without a single casualty. It was a completely flawless victory. I mean, think about that. A perfect execution of an incredibly high-risk plan. But as amazing as Operation Trident was, believe it or not, it was only half the story. At the exact same time, the Indian Navy was running an entirely different but just as brilliant strategy on the other side of the country. Yep, back on the Western Front, the job wasn't quite done. Just 4 days after Trident, they launched a follow-up attack called Operation Python. This one finished with Trident started, completely wiping out the rest of the fuel reserves at Karachi and making sure that port was locked down tight. And this right here shows you the genius of the whole two-front strategy. See, in the West, it was all about these lightning-fast missile strikes to smash the enemy. But over in the East, the game was totally different. The goal there was a complete naval blockade, to surround and cut off all the Pakistani forces in what was then East Pakistan.
And oh boy, did they dominate. First, they used this super clever decoy plan to lure Pakistan's most dangerous submarine, the PNS Ghazi, into a trap. And they sank it. With that major threat gone, the aircraft carrier INS Vikrant just unleashed its fighter jets, pounding coastal cities and locking down the sea. This total blockade basically strangled the 93,000 Pakistani troops stationed there. No supplies, no way out. It directly led to their surrender.
Okay, so just when you think this story can't get any more dramatic, it goes global. Seriously, this conflict blew up from a regional war into a super tense Cold War standoff, right in the middle of the Indian Ocean.
And this is where things get really intense. The U.S., alarmed that Pakistan was about to collapse, decides to step in. President Nixon sends in the big guns, Task Force 74, part of the mighty U.S. 7th Fleet, and it's led by the nuclear-powered aircraft carrier, the USS Enterprise. Let's be clear, their mission was simple: show up, look intimidating, and scare India into backing off.
Now, this timeline lays out the whole geopolitical chess match perfectly. You see, India had kind of seen this coming. Just a few months earlier, they'd signed a friendship treaty with the Soviet Union. So as the U.S. fleet is steaming towards the Bay of Bengal, the Soviets make their move. They send out their own powerful fleet, including nuclear submarines, to cut off the Americans.
And that Soviet response? It was the ultimate checkmate. They basically just shadowed the American task force, creating this incredibly tense standoff in the middle of the ocean. The American bluff had been called. And before the USS Enterprise could even get close to the action, the Indian military had already finished the job. Pakistan surrendered in Dhaka. The war was over.
So how does this all circle back to today? Well, that victory in 1971 wasn't just some event in a history book. It actually forged the identity, the very DNA, of the modern Indian Navy.
People rightly call the 1971 war the Navy's finest hour. And it really was. It was a perfect 100 across the board. Strategic audacity, tactical brilliance, and an absolutely decisive impact on how the war ended.
And you can literally draw a straight line from that victory to the Navy we see today. The boldness of Operation Trident, that fuels the Navy's leadership role in the Indian Ocean now. The smart innovation with those missile boats, that inspires the modern push for self-reliance. And the fighting spirit of the killer squadron, well, that lives on in today's elite Marcos. The entire idea of being combat-ready is built on the lessons learned back in 1971.
So, the next time you see those Navy Day celebrations on December 4th, you'll know the incredible story behind that salute. It's a tribute to a flawless operation, a game-changing victory that continues to define India's power on the seas. And that just leaves us with one final thing to think about. As the Indian Navy keeps growing from a regional power into a true global force, what's next on the horizon?